Okay, so what is all of this about?
It's a really good question.
Well, as many of you guys know, Middletown's been dealing with a homeless situation, or at least that's how they labeled it. We've come together to join our forces, do our part for the community by fighting hunger. As you can tell right here, this is our cauldron. We're going to leave it throughout the community at the shops who decided that they want to take part in the change. So what we're going to do is people donate, and then we take it to food pantries, and eventually down the road we'll do a thing where you can take one, leave one throughout the community.
The cauldron is a metaphor for nourishment. It's a powerful ancient one. It's also deeply associated with paganism. So by placing these strategically at various businesses across the tri-state, we're effectively creating food pantries, mini food pantries. We're going to run these through the year, and we're going to partner closely with our businesses, and look at extending that throughout the year so that it's a regular fixture in the businesses. We're calling this the Cauldron Against Hunger, and this is a place where people can drop their food items off, and then starting the beginning of next year, they'll also be able to drop food items and pick them up as well.
Another thing I wanted to add to that, speaking about the cauldron, is that you'll see in our ritual, we're calling upon the Celtic god of Dagda, and he was known to have the cosmic cauldron, which was always filled in abundance. It was filled with knowledge, it was filled with plenty. He was also the god of the people who would champion those of peasantry that did without, and we're kind of, as pagans, it's a big goal for us to, act as the gods would act. They're our role models, they're our inspiration. So, we want to be like our God. So, the Dagda being who he is, this is a chance for us to, continue that work.
Well put. Awesome. Okay, so what is your goal with all of this? What exactly are you trying to accomplish?
Well, as pagans, one of the fundamental concepts that we tend to hold is the idea that we are all sacred. And that's certainly not limited to any one person or group of people. And so I think behind this is the idea of empowerment. We're trying to promote empowerment by being engaged in the community with people that traditionally are disempowered, those that are hungry. And, we consider ourselves servants. And we really want to serve by offering something that, especially this time of the year, there's a lot of hungry people out there. And in a small way, we're making a difference.
Yeah. And the great thing about doing this all year round is if you see a cauldron in June, you're like, why is there a cauldron? Especially if you're not in a pagan metaphysical shop. And with what it represents, it's letting you know not only the season that we give thanks and whatever holiday, whatever you celebrate, this is a thing that goes culturally, countries, everywhere that you can think of year round. There's people that are starving, that don't have food, that may not have a place or income or a way to heat things up. This is a reminder to be thankful for what's in your life and to always get back.
We also want the community to have a greater level of awareness about what pagans are about, that we're not to be feared. And people fear what they don't understand. And sometimes, in some ways, pagans have kind of fed that by staying in the shadows a little bit. And this is our way of visibly engaging the community. And by having a cauldron, people do tend to associate cauldrons with pagans. So we're increasing visibility and we're serving others.
So we try to be inspirational in what we do. We've got our faces out there. People know who we are among the pagan community. So by leading by example, because there's a lot in society today where everything is self-centered. It's all about me, 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 me. So we're trying to project the idea that it's a about giving back, especially when you have that platform to give back or to show people how to give back. You know, by doing this, using a cauldron, you know, eventually people will look at it and like, oh, that's for giving. That's for, you know, helping people out, you know, giving food to the homeless, so that you can kind of change the perception of how people might either look at pagans and witches or the cauldron in general. You know, it will raise forth the whole idea that, you know, when they see it, it'll be symbolic of, you know, feeding the hungry.
The other thing, lest we forget, is we're not just joining with the community, but we're also joining with each other as pagans. The three of us that are here today represent three critical pagan organizations in the tri-state. We have the Ohio Valley Pagans, we have Brian, which we didn't introduce ourselves, we should have introduced ourselves.
We got excited.
We did get excited. Brian Morgan, Ohio Valley Pagans, Randy Bell from Butler County Pagan Gatherings, and Debbie Lewis from the Divine Witch. And so we're actually demonstrating solidarity in our own community. Gone will be the days of fractions and of walls being set up. We're here to also serve as a metaphor of what can happen when pagans across different groups come together to make something happen. And that's a very powerful message, because we represent collectively thousands of pagans across the tri-state. And we're also joining in the future with other pagans in a display of solidarity to make good stuff that matters and happen. So, yeah, I forgot about the introductions. Gosh, I didn't forget about the introductions.
It makes for a great midway, like.
That's right. That's right.
My next question actually has to do with that. So who is supporting this? And maybe you could give me more information on each of your guys' organizations.
Brian, you want to go first?
Well, as far as supporting it, you've got the list of shops, I believe, that are working with us on this. So with Ohio Valley Pagan Society, our group is focused on, you know, networking with other pagans, bringing awareness to paganism. Our motto is truth and unity. You know, truth being, you know, dispelling the myths about paganism, bringing, you know, the actual idea, let people know what it is, what we do, you know, what it's about. We've done a lot of teaching with the community, with other religious organizations. And on the other end, you know, we try to unite the pagan community as a whole to come together and start working together to get to know each other, to find each other. And we've been doing that since 2013, and it's been going great and gaining momentum. And so yeah, and it's got a lot more to come in the next year, so stay tuned.
Awesome.
So the shops that are supporting us currently, we're at Triple Moon. Triple Moon completely embraces and supports the pagan community, and so it's no surprise they would be interested in the Cauldron Against Hunger. Their sister shop, the Living Tree, also in Middletown, is going to have one of our cauldrons conveniently located. Middleton Arts Center in Middletown, here across the street, will also have one. Illuminati in Hamilton, a game shop, and two of the Sterling Seraph shops are also going to have cauldrons. So that'll bring us to 6, and that's just a beginning point. Again, this is very much new. This is a recent idea that we just kind of came together and made happen in the past week.
Yeah.
So I think as a beginning point, it's a really solid start. So I founded Butler County Pagan Gatherings about 7 months ago, with the idea of really focusing on pagan empowerment. I'm also a social worker, and social work, if you were to condense it into one word, it's about empowerment, helping to empower other people who traditionally are not empowered. Well, pagans are a marginalized religion. Despite the fact that we are the oldest religion in the world, we are the foundation of all the world's religions. We are also, in our modern era, unfortunately, a marginalized religion. And it's not unusual to find pagans say, I'm not really completely comfortable wearing a pentacle to work. I'm not really completely comfortable sharing my faith with my family. I'm not completely comfortable, And I started the organization with the idea that I want that sort of feeling to be gone. I don't want people to have to make decisions based on fear. Most of us left religions because we were done with the idea of fear. We were done with the idea of being marginalized and controlled. Paganism is a path of liberation from those things. And so I really wanted to start an organization that would help empower pagans by linking with each other and by linking with the community in novel, creative ways that are just a bit different and a bit out of the box. So, for instance, we had drum circles recently. We had a peace festival in Hamilton recently. We have a D&D group. We're trying to do things that are kind of inventive. And the Cauldron Against Hunger is an example of something. And to be able to partner with other pagan organizations is exhilarating. I'm really, really excited about the possibilities. We have wonderful people here. So we're newer, and we're just excited. Very, very enthusiastic.
Hey guys, you know me over at the Divine Witch. I've been doing this for 2 years for the Middletown community, but also the Ohio community as abroad. I've known Brian for quite some years. I've met Randy within the last couple months, even though we've touched base over, I think, the last year. Our mission when we started out was to create a safe place for people to come together, no matter if you're pagan or not pagan, and to learn from each other. To set up events that anybody could come to without the fear of, well, I don't have this money or I don't have that money. And then our third and last goal was to bring the community of pagans together as a whole, to work together, to have big events, to help one another, to listen to each other and figure out where can we grow and where can we go. It's been a road, it's been a give and take. It's took a while, as you guys have seen over the years, but we're finally getting to a point to where we're coming together, we're working together instead of against each other. As many of you guys know, it's hard to get pagans as a whole to come together and work towards one goal. One, because we're human. We do have egos, we do have fears, and sometimes that keeps us from working together. But I think with the change and dynamic that's happened over the last couple of years, it's brought us closer together as working as one. It's great when you're separated, but when you start working with that high mentality, you can do things that are astronomical. So that's what we try to do, and that's what we're going to continue to do. That's our promise to you.
One thing I want to add to, I think is a goal of all of us, is to try and, as you mentioned, empower other pagans. It's, I think all of us stand for the fact that, you shouldn't have to hide who you are. You shouldn't have to hide the fact that you're pagan. You shouldn't have to hide the fact that you want to wear your pinnacle. And we strive very strongly, and, we put ourselves out there. So, anybody else who doubts the fact that, that they can't wear their pinnacle, or they're afraid their family might see it, or their friends might see it, or their job. No, you don't have to. Yep. Just be yourself. They'll either accept you or they won't. If they don't, then you don't need that in your life. If they do, then great. It's all about empowering.
And it's interesting because even though we're in the 21st century, you would think that people would be free to be able to explore their spirituality without fear, but that's not the case. And how often have we heard stories of people who say, my family's rejected me, or I might lose my job at work if I wear a pinnacle. I can't do that.
Or I can't have a holiday because it's not considered an actual holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, first off, we have something called a constitution, all right, that actually protects us and always has. But secondly, the public awareness of the various different religious expressions is greater now than it's ever been. We're in an age when you can take Google and you can find an answer to almost any question you have. And so people are really exploring outside of the dominant religion. Roughly 25% in our country are non-Christian. And Wicca, for instance, is one of the fastest growing religions in the country. I think, and actually it's exceeded Presbyterian growth. And I say that not to suggest there should be some sort of competition, but just to establish that people, in fact, are exploring alternatives to the one dominant religion in our country. And we, as leaders in this community, we feel our role is to support, to be there for, and and a lot of that has to do with our own decisions. I know that all of us are invested in educating the public. I know Butler County Pagan Gatherings on the 26th, for instance, has an event at the Lane Public Library in Fairfield called Ask a Witch, Meet the Real Witches of Butler County. And it's an opportunity for the public to come and actually learn about what is witchcraft, what's the history of witchcraft in America, where's it at in terms of the modernity, and what is an average witch like? Because the average witch is your neighbor. It's the person that waits on you at the store. It's your friend who you didn't actually realize necessarily was pagan. Us pagans are average people. Maybe we're dressing in interesting clothing, but all faith traditions tend to have their clothes and rituals and symbols that are unique to their path, and we do too as pagans. But we are, at the end of the day, average people trying to live our lives and find joy like everybody else. We just want people to be able to feel free to do that. And it's high time that happens. Right?
And that's the thing, if you look right now, a lot of people are leaving predominant religions because they feel like they're not inclusive, or they're being ganged up on, or maybe it just doesn't feel right. And that's how we are, you know what I mean? Everybody comes to their own spiritual path in their own ways or their own times. It's not like we're sitting here trying to convert you. We're just making ourselves known within the community and showing, hey, it's about time that we make ourselves known, not only within the pagan community, but our communities that we work, we live in, our kids go to school in. Because we've hidden for so long, it's time for us to not only do good with other people, but to do good in our surroundings as well.
Okay, so my last question that I have, I understand we're doing a ritual today.
Yep.
I would just like you guys to elaborate that. So what are your intentions with it, and what is the goal with it, and is it related to the food drive?
This man wrote it? Brian? I don't mean to push you out on the stage. You wrote it, brother, so you might as well own it and
Right.
talk about it.
So with the ritual, as I mentioned earlier, we will be invoking the god, the Dagda. And so with what we got going on, the whole idea is to, battle hunger, create unity, create peace. It's, the ritual itself, it's called the ritual of unifying peace. So, we were raising that energy, raising that awareness, asking the God, the Dagda to, ask him for his blessing to, bless the land. In this case, we're working in Middletown. So, and that's where our work right at this moment is geared towards. So that's what we're working for. So, it will, one, help the homeless here in Middletown. And two, it'll, create awareness throughout the public for the people, and hopefully it will give them the energy and the mindset to actually want to work, combating hunger, combating homeless, and we're trying to be, that champion through this ritual.
You can go ahead.
No,
You want to flip a coin?
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page here with this. I don't know, but I'm assuming. Another thing it does, it puts us out in the presence. We're always doing our own events and stuff like that, but we don't really engage a whole lot within the community as a whole, the non-pagan community. So this makes visibility for us as pagans to be like, well, what's going on over there? And that's why you see the ritual wear. Normally, we don't wear our ritual wear in our everyday. This is to make you look at us and be like, well, what's going on over there? And that helps direct you to what we're doing. It's an eye catcher.
And by doing that, we're effectively speaking to all of our brothers and sisters out there in the community in a visible way. And as pagans, many of us, I think most of us, believe in this idea that we're interconnected and interdependent. And, you know, Dagda, I don't know exactly, but how long's Dagda been around as an archetype, as an idea, approximately?
Well, the idea of the mythology,
Just ballpark.
5,000 years, yeah.
Right. So, see, we're talking, you know, again, paganism is the primeval foundation of all the world's religions. I bring this up only because I very much believe, I think all of us do, in this idea of energy exchange. We're putting energy into the community. We're doing it in a very collective way. You know, we're feeding into an astral plane in which we're interconnected with the rest of the community. People who hear this ritual, who find out about it, God Dagda, I don't know. On a conscious level, maybe not. But make no mistake about it, that's not the only plane of existence that we're operating under. All of us humans at all times are completely aware on a real fundamental level about all these gods and goddesses that have always been. So we're actually triggering that unconscious that's out there by being interconnected. And we're rising, we're bringing it up too, on a collective level, the conscious mind in the public. And I think that's fundamentally powerful. It's very important. Mm-hmm. So these gods and goddesses have been around for 5,000 years, this particular god, or longer. We have, you know, some of our earliest anthropological finds, 40,000-year-old, 50,000 years old. You know, paganism stretches back to the very beginning of humanity. And so by doing this out in the public, we're giving people an opportunity to discover something that's already within them, but they're just not aware of. And so that's very important too. So we're again, this is magic work. Okay, we're doing this stuff with magic as well. And I think that's really important to put out there.
Do
Mm-hmm.
you want to speak about the thing at your town hall? When you spoke about the homeless?
Oh, yeah. I just love it. Recently had opportunity to speak to Middletown Council, and I did that on behalf of Butler County Pagan Gatherings. As the founder of that group, gotta love ABBA. Yeah. Should we dance?
Yes.
And that was planned. And we will dance later. But so, as an organizer of Butler County Pagan Gatherings, look, I care about my brothers and sisters, but I'm also a social worker going on 30 years. I work with the homeless already. And when I heard that there were real concerns about some changes in the homeless population, it was really being difficult for business owners, it caught my attention. And so I had an opportunity to speak at City Council and to be interviewed by Channel 5 and to share my feelings and thoughts as a pagan and as a social worker. So I kind of had a unique position. Long and short of it is I'm a proponent of the idea that many of our social problems are very complex and they require complex solutions. They're not just Band-Aid solutions that actually reach to the depth of what actually is creating problems, rather than just what does a problem look like. Mm-hmm. Because what homelessness looks like and what causes homelessness are two totally different things. You know, and people find homelessness objectionable sometimes because they don't want to see homeless people roaming around. They don't want to see the problem. But, you know, like I mentioned to the reporter, I said, well, you know, it very well could be that, you know, the homeless person that's visible, that walks in a shop, who's trying to panhandle, is trying to teach us something. They're giving us an opportunity to be aware of a problem. And so, you know, that's really important. And, you know, so I look at it as we need to listen to the homeless population, listen to what their needs are, and listen to how we can actually serve rather than just relocate. A lot of solutions I was hearing was, we just don't want to see them. Mm-hmm. We want to move them away. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, you know, first off, on an intellectual level, that doesn't make any sense. It becomes a whack-a-mole type situation, mm-hmm. where we displace the problem over here, but it reappears over here. And we see that, for instance, with incarceration rates. You know, if we don't fund some programs, then our incarceration rates go up higher. But on an ethical level, no, it's not just about, you know, people are not cattle to be herded around. They're our fellow brothers and sisters. And again, as a pagan, I believe that we are deeply interconnected and interdependent. We're all sacred manifestations of the god and goddess. And so I wanted to serve. I don't want to just relocate that person. I want to actually try to help them become empowered.
What got me is like, you have people saying, well, they can't be here. Well, last time I checked, I can go anywhere in the United States I want. As long as, you know, I don't have a history where it prohibits that. So, you know, just saying, well, you can't be here because of this. Well, you know what? We have more resources like me and you talked about, and we're able to help more people. Let's work with other cities to create a network to where we can come up with solutions. And maybe, you know, some people have mental health issues or drug addictions, or maybe they just got down on their luck. It happens. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people who are struggling, and it's hard. It's not just one thing or the other. And to come up with a solution, which I think Middletown is working towards. Last time I heard they were going to either work with Habitat with Humanity to set up a building to where they can have more of a area to go to get resources and things like that. But it's going to take the whole community, not just part. And that's what we're doing. We're taking part and doing what we can and going from there.
One of the strengths as pagans we have is the sense of inclusivity. This is why you'll see pagans at, you know, when Butler County Pagan Gatherings handed out 500 bottles of water at Middletown Pride, we did that because we're very visibly saying, we are here to support that community.
Yep.
We believe in complete equality. We welcome the LGBTQ community. Ours is a welcoming religion. We embrace people. That's why people come. That's why there's such a high percentage of the LGBTQ community that call themselves pagans. You know, and so you know,
You kind of go hand in hand. So,
yeah, I mean,
Right.
and you know, but these are groups traditionally like pagans that also have been disadvantaged and are disempowered. And you know, with the homeless issue, you have this intersectionality where you have racism, classism, and a variety of other things that marginalize people and that effectively push them down. You know, and so again, our one of our main focuses is to help empower as leaders in the pagan community. We want to promote empowerment. So the homelessness issue was a natural thing that we would want to become interested in. And I know I can speak for both these leaders too. We are going to be heavily involved in our social problems on a visible plane in our communities to try to make a difference. These things matter to us a great deal, and we're gonna be vocal about it. So
yeah, another thing we had talked about is, you know, doing like a soup kitchen, stuff like that. And you know, I didn't realize this, and they brought it up, but I find